I never thought I'd be part of a story that sounds like it belongs in some Hollywood drama. But I was. And the one who pulled me into it was my own wife. This is my story about betrayal and a twist I never saw coming. 15 years married. That's a long time to get used to somebody's coffee habits, their quiet moods, the sound of their shoes across the kitchen floor. You start to think you know a person like the back of your own hand. I thought I knew Linda. She used to laugh with her whole face. That's what I remember the most. Not just the sound, the look in her eyes when she did. Like it started from somewhere deep and worked its way up. These days, I couldn't remember the last time I saw that look. We still lived in the same house, slept in the same bed, ate dinner at the same table, but something was missing. Not all at once. It was gradual. Like dust building up in a room you used to keep spotless. We'd sit across from each other at dinner, and most nights the only thing we'd say was, "Pass the salt." There were signs, sure. The kind you notice if you're not trying too hard to ignore them. The way she'd turn away slightly if I reached for her hand. The fact that we hadn't really touched, in a long time. Not since before Christmas. And it was May now. I didn't say anything. Part of me thought, maybe this is just what happens after a while. You settle. You get older. You get quiet. You find new ways to care about each other. I kept telling myself that. She started going out more. Meeting up with the girls, she said. Book clubs, wine nights, little day trips to the lake. At first, I didn't think twice. Linda's always been social. Likes her friends, likes her space. That was never a problem for me. But one evening, she came home glowing. That's the word that stuck with me, glowing. She looked younger, brighter. Like someone flipped a switch I didn't even know was off. Her cheeks were flushed, her eyes wide. She had a new laugh, not fake, just fresh. I hadn't heard it in years. "What's got you smiling like that?" I asked. She waved me off. "Just Rachel being ridiculous again." "You'd like her, she's hilarious." I nodded. I'd heard the name before. Rachel this, Rachel that. I'd never met her. After that night, she mentioned Rachel more. A lot more. I noticed it, even if I didn't want to admit I was paying attention. She'd be on the phone, giggling like a teenager, or typing out messages at midnight with a smile on her lips. I told myself not to be paranoid. They were just friends. But here's the thing about marriage. Even when things aren't working, you still know when something shifts. It's like a house settling. The creaks change pitch. I caught her once, looking at her phone and smiling so wide it almost startled me. Then she noticed I was watching, and the smile dropped like a curtain. She tucked the phone away and started talking about needing to get groceries. She always talked more when she was nervous. Still, I said nothing. I didn't want to be the jealous husband. The guy who makes a scene because his wife found someone to laugh with. And truthfully, I wasn't even angry. Not yet. I just felt out of place. Like I was slowly becoming a guest in my own life. We still said good morning. Still said good night. Still shared a mailbox and the same pots and pans. But that didn't mean we were sharing much else. And somewhere deep down, even if I wouldn't say it out loud, I knew something was slipping. Quietly. Like sand through your fingers. It's funny how a person can be right there in the same room and still feel 100 miles away. It got harder to ignore once it started happening more often. Linda wasn't just glowing every now and then. It was every time she left the house. She'd walk out the door like she was going somewhere exciting and come home looking 10 years lighter. Hair curled. Skin soft. Eyes lit up like she'd just come back from a vacation I wasn't invited on. And me? I'd still be sitting in the same chair, drinking the same coffee, reading the same newspaper. Watching it all happen like I was a background extra in someone else's movie. One night, she walked in around 9:30, keys dingling in her hand, laughing to herself like she was remembering something funny. I was in the living room, watching an old ball game I'd seen a dozen times. She didn't even notice me sitting there until she turned the corner. "Oh, hey," she said, a little startled. "Didn't think you'd still be up." "Game ran long," I said. She kicked off her shoes, smiling to herself. "Rachel, maybe try this spicy sangria tonight." "I think I'm still sweating." There was that name again. "Rachel seems to be keeping you pretty entertained lately," I said. She froze just for a second. A tiny pause, probably didn't even know she did it. Then she shrugged and walked toward the kitchen. "She's good for me," she called over her shoulder. "Just fun. No drama." I didn't follow her. Just stared at the muted television and tried to remember the last time she'd come home glowing like that after a night with me. The next day, I got curious. Not angry. Not jealous. Just curious. I opened up Facebook on the desktop in my office. I don't use it much, mostly to see photos from my nephew's kids or keep up with local news. But I knew Linda posted often, outfits, brunches, wine tastings, all that. There she was, in photo after photo. And there was Rachel. Short blonde hair. Thin. One of those faces that always looks like it's about to say something clever. In every picture, they were side by side. Laughing. Holding drinks. Heads tilted toward each other like they were sharing a secret. Sometimes hands touching. Sometimes not. Not one man in sight. Just Linda and Rachel. Over and over again. I scrolled through 3 months' worth of pictures. Different outfits. Different locations. Same pattern. Same glow. And that same smile from Linda, the one I hadn't seen in our house in years. Was I reading too much into it? Maybe. People take pictures with friends all the time. Maybe that's all it was. But something didn't sit right. I started noticing how Linda pulled away a little more every day. If I tried to joke with her, she'd give me a small laugh and look back at her phone. If I tried to ask about her plans, she kept things vague. Just the girls again. Probably dinner somewhere. Not sure yet. We're figuring it out. It was never we anymore when she talked about me and her. But it was always we when she talked about Rachel. She didn't even say, my friend Rachel. Just Rachel, like I should know who she was by now. Like she had her own space in our world, and I was the one on the outside. One morning, I caught Linda in the mirror, putting on makeup I hadn't seen in years. Lipstick. Light eyeshadow. Perfume. You got a hot date or something? I said with a half smile, trying to make it light. She turned, startled again. No. Gosh, Tom. It's just dinner. All right, I said. You just haven't worn that perfume since our anniversary trip to Michigan. She looked down at the bottle in her hand, then back at me. Guess I forgot I still had it. But we both knew that wasn't true. That night, after she left, I sat in the dark and stared at the same front door she used to come through smiling at me. And for the first time, I didn't wonder if something was going on. I started wondering how long it had already been happening. By the time June rolled around, I wasn't just suspicious, I was convinced. I couldn't say exactly when it clicked, but I remember sitting at the kitchen table one Saturday afternoon, scrolling through Linda's latest Facebook album on my phone, and feeling my chest go tight. It was another wine night. Or maybe a garden party. Honestly, I stopped reading the captions. They were always the same, much-needed girls' time, or laughing with my favorite human. But I wasn't looking at the words anymore. I was looking at Rachel. Always Rachel. They weren't just posing next to each other. They were leaning in close, smiling like something private had just been whispered. Rachel's hand was on Linda's knee in one of them. Another had Rachel brushing Linda's hair back behind her ear while she laughed. No one else was in the photos. No group shots. No friends. No girls' night, except the two of them. I stared at the screen for a long time, longer than I probably should have. And then I did something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I checked her messages. Her phone was on the kitchen counter, face down, while she was out on the patio watering her flowers. I told myself it was just for peace of mind. Just a quick glance. But the moment I opened her Facebook Messenger, that excuse didn't hold up. First message at the top. Rachel. And their conversation? Not flirty. Not vulgar. Just full. Full of heart. Full of comfort. Like two people who'd built something behind closed doors and didn't need to explain it anymore. There were old photos. Screenshots. Inside jokes. Late-night check-ins. One message from Linda, sent around midnight a week ago, just said, "You make me feel like I'm madder again." I put the phone back exactly where it was. That should have been the moment I confronted her. Should have been the night I sat her down and said, "We need to talk." But I didn't. I just walked out to the garage, sat in my truck with the windows down, and listened to the cicadas hum. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I just felt like I'd been erased. Quietly. Softly. Like a picture frame removed from a shelf when no one's looking. I didn't care that it was a woman. Let me be real clear about that. If she had feelings she hadn't figured out until later in life, fine. That happens. Life's messy. People grow in strange directions. But this wasn't about who she loved. It was about what she was hiding. It was about the fact that I'd been sleeping next to someone who wasn't really there anymore. Who'd already found something new while I was still clinging to something old. That week, she went out 3 times. Each time she left a little earlier and came home a little later. Each time she smiled a little less when she saw me. Like being back in our house was a weight she had to put back on. I started noticing how she kept her phone closer. Didn't leave it charging in the kitchen anymore. Took it with her into the bathroom, into the laundry room, even into the garage, always in her hand, like she was waiting for something important to light up the screen. I started sleeping on my side of the bed, and only my side. I didn't roll over, didn't reach for her, just laid there with the ceiling fan spinning overhead, listening to her breathe. I wondered if she knew I knew. I wondered if she'd ever planned to tell me. But more than anything, I wondered how long someone could pretend they still lived in a marriage when their heart had clearly moved out already. People say trust your gut, that it knows before your brain catches up. I used to think that was just something folks said when they were trying to sound wise. But I get it now. That feeling in your stomach? The one that doesn't go away, even when everything looks fine on the outside. That's your warning. And mine had been screaming for weeks. I didn't confront her. I didn't ask her to explain. I wasn't looking for a fight. But I started preparing myself, quietly, emotionally, financially, even legally. Because something inside me, something deep, told me this wasn't going to end with a conversation and some tears. It was going to be worse. It was a Thursday morning when I first saw the money was missing. I log into our bank accounts every so often, mostly to pay the mortgage and keep an eye on our savings. Linda used to handle all that stuff, but the last year or so, I started doing it more. Just one of those things you pick up when your spouse starts being everywhere except home. We had close to $38,000 across 2 savings accounts and 1 emergency fund. Not a fortune, but enough to feel secure. Enough for the roof we were supposed to fix. The kitchen she said she wanted to remodel. Retirement someday, maybe. But when I logged in that morning, I nearly dropped my coffee. One account was empty. Gone. Another was down by half. I sat there in silence, blinking at the numbers like they might change if I looked long enough. I pulled up the transaction history. It didn't take long to see it was all her. Transfers to a new checking account I didn't recognize. And then withdrawals. Thousands at a time. Like someone cashing out a life they no longer plan to return to. I didn't call her. Didn't send a text. I just stared out the kitchen window and let the numbness settle in. That night, she came home with a small suitcase. Said she'd spent the night at Rachel's to clear her head. Said they'd been talking about taking a trip. Just the 2 of us, she said, watching my face like she was daring me to react. I didn't. Not then. I just nodded and said, sounds like something you've already decided. She hesitated. I haven't decided anything. But she had. We both knew. I waited until she was in the shower before I checked the hallway closet. A few things were already missing. Shoes. Her favorite coat. A box that used to hold travel documents. It was like watching someone move out in slow motion. That night, we went to bed like nothing happened. She turned to her side. I turned to mine. The distance between us might as well have been a wall. Next morning, she was gone before sunrise. No note. No goodbye. Just gone. The only sound left in the house was the refrigerator humming and the faint echo of something that used to be love. I sat at the table and opened the account again. $31,482. That's how much she'd taken by the time I finished adding it up. Later that day, I got a text. Please don't be angry. I just need to figure out who I really am. Rachel understands me in a way you never could. I hope one day you'll understand. Understand? I put the phone down and sat in the silence. I'd given her 15 years. And all I got was a text. That was the day I stopped wondering if she was coming back. And started thinking about what I was going to do next. The strange thing about getting left is that the house doesn't feel different right away. The morning after she was gone, the coffee still brewed on its timer. The porch light was still on. Her shoes still sat by the door, like she'd be back in an hour. But she wasn't. And I knew she wouldn't be. I sat in the kitchen staring at the empty chair across from me, and it hit me all at once. I didn't even get the decency of a conversation. Not a fight. Not a tearful confession. Just a text message and an echo. I don't know what hurt worse, the fact that she left, or the fact that she did it so quietly. Like I was someone she could just slip past on her way out the door. I called the bank and had them freeze what little was left. Maybe $3,000 total, scattered between checking and what used to be our emergency fund. The woman on the phone was polite, but I could hear the pity in her voice. Yes, sir. I see the transfers. Yes, they started 3 weeks ago. No, nothing flagged because they were all under the daily limit. Happens more often than you'd think. That last part stuck with me. Happens more often than you'd think. I never imagined I'd be part of that statistic. The guy who thought everything was just a rough patch while his wife slowly siphoned away his life's work. I tried calling her once that day. Straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I wasn't expecting her to answer anyway. Around noon, I pulled up Rachel's name on Facebook. I'd never actually looked at her page before. It was locked up tight, barely any info visible. But I noticed something new. Linda had changed her profile picture. It was the two of them, sitting on a beach somewhere, arms around each other, big sunglasses, frozen cocktails in hand, smiling like nothing in the world could touch them. I shut the laptop. That's when I made the second call of the day, this one to Jake Wallace, the only attorney I trusted. "Jake," I said. "Linda left. Took the money. She's with someone else." He didn't say, "I told you so," though he could have. He just said, "Come in tomorrow morning. We'll get started." That afternoon, I walked through the house like it was a stranger's place. Opened drawers, closets, took note of what was gone. Jewelry, passport, her grandmother's necklace, half the bathroom cabinet. She'd planned this, and she didn't plan on coming back. That night, I found a printout tucked into her old recipe binder. I almost missed it. It was folded in half and slid between the pages of her lemon bar recipe. I opened it up, a wire transfer receipt. $15,000. Transferred not to Rachel, but to a new account under a name I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it was Linda using a middle name or maiden name. But when I searched it online, I found a fraud complaint forum with a thread warning about that exact name. Turns out Rachel, or whatever her real name was, had done this before. Other women. Same story. Get close, build trust, make them feel seen. Then help them start a new life, right after draining their accounts. Linda didn't just leave me. She got played. And now we were both left holding the bag, mine filled with betrayal, hers probably already stolen. But the difference between us was, I still had my name, my job, my reputation, and a lawyer who didn't like being lied to. The next morning, I put on a clean shirt, drove downtown, and shook Jake's hand like a man who was finally done hoping for explanations. "I'm not angry," I said. "I believe you," he replied. "I just want what's mine." Jake nodded. "Then let's go get it." Jake was a guy who didn't waste time. By 9 a.m. that morning, he'd already printed the divorce forms, pulled the bank records I'd sent him, and was digging into property protection. We sat in his office, a quiet corner suite above a tax prep business. Nothing fancy, but the man knew how to draw blood on paper. "She took 31 grand total?" he asked, flipping through the pages. "Just about," I said, "and gave half of it to someone named." I paused, pulled the crumpled wire transfer from my jacket. "Celia Royce." Jake tapped his pen against the desk. "That's not Rachel?" "No idea. Linda always called her Rachel." Jake leaned back, rubbing his chin. "Give me an hour." I left the office and grabbed a coffee down the street. Sat in my truck, windows down, thinking about nothing. Or maybe everything. Funny how the brain starts dragging up old moments when you're in limbo. Her laugh from our honeymoon. The way she used to fold my t-shirts. All the small things that used to mean something. By the time I got back, Jake was waiting at the door. "You're going to want to sit down," he said. He dropped a folder in front of me. "Rachel Devlin, real name Celia Royce. For aliases. 3 reported cases of financial fraud. Never convicted, but there's paper trails everywhere. Police in Ohio, Michigan, and Arizona all have open files with her name in the margin." I stared at the page. Her face was there in black and white, grainy but unmistakable. That same smirk. That same short haircut. "She's a professional," Jake said. "Targets emotionally vulnerable women. Builds quick emotional bonds, convinces them to start fresh, and walks away with the money." "And Linda?" I asked. Jake shrugged. "Most likely didn't know until it was too late. But that doesn't change what she did to you." He slid another document over. "Here's what we're doing. Divorce filing goes in today. We're freezing anything left in her name. You'll file a civil suit for restitution, and we'll hand over the financial docs to local law enforcement. There's enough here for the DA to consider charges." I exhaled, slow and quiet. "This ain't about revenge, Jake." "I know," he said. "But we're going to make sure she doesn't walk away clean." That night, I sat in the house by myself. Didn't turn on the TV. Didn't put on music. Just sat in the living room, the same room we used to spend Sunday afternoons in, and stared at the silence she left behind. I wondered where she was now. If she was sitting on a motel bed, realizing Rachel was never coming back. If she was crying. If she was angry at herself, or still trying to believe it was all part of the plan. 3 days later, the police called. "She came back," the officer said. "Showed up at the house. Knocked on your door." I wasn't there. "Right." She looked rough. "We picked her up. She's being held on suspicion of financial misconduct. Bail's pending review." I said thank you. Hung up. and sat there at the kitchen table. Linda had returned to the scene like it was all just going to work itself out. Like she could walk back into the life she left and expect it to still fit. But it didn't. Not anymore. Whatever she had with Rachel was gone. Whatever she had with me, that was gone too. Not just broken, finished. The only thing left now was court. And I'd be there. Not for revenge. Not for closure. Just to finish what she started. Jake always said, divorce is paperwork. Justice is timing. And in this case, we had both. The day after Linda was picked up, I sat back down in Jake's office and we went through the next steps. No fluff. No therapy talk. Just clean, legal precision. She'll get a public defender, Jake said. No way she can afford anything else now. Best thing we do is file everything fast while she's still reeling. We filed for divorce that morning, grounds, abandonment, financial misconduct, and fraud. Jake also filed a civil suit for restitution to reclaim the stolen funds, and we included documentation for the DA in case criminal charges stuck. It felt strange, seeing her name on those forms. Linda Halpern, respondent. Like we were strangers. Like the last 15 years had turned into a courtroom case file. Jake pushed everything through fast. Within 48 hours, Linda was served in custody. I didn't attend. I didn't need to see her in an orange jumpsuit or sitting on a bench with her hands folded like a school kid. That wasn't what this was about. I wasn't looking to humiliate her. I just wanted my name back. My savings. My peace. A week later, her court-appointed attorney called Jake. Wanted to arrange a sit-down. Said Linda wanted to explain. I figured that meant she wanted to twist the knife just a little gentler. Jake asked me, "You want to hear her out?" I thought for a second. Then I nodded. Yeah, let her say whatever she needs to. But we're not negotiating. We met at the courthouse. Neutral ground. One of those quiet back rooms with cheap carpet and water-stained ceilings. Jake sat beside me. Her lawyer sat with her. She looked different. Not just tired, broken. No makeup. No jewelry. Clothes a size too big. Eyes that wouldn't hold mine for more than 2 seconds. Tom, she said quietly. I waited. I know I don't have the right to ask for anything, and I know what I did was unforgivable. Still, I waited. I didn't know what Rachel really was. I thought she loved me. I thought I found something real. I spoke finally. Calm. Even. Did you love her? She blinked. I thought I did. I nodded slowly. Then why'd you steal from me? Tears welled in her eyes, but I didn't feel anything. Just a steady hum of sadness, like background noise. I didn't plan it that way. She convinced me it was our money. That I'd earned it, too. That it was okay to take what I needed to start fresh. You took everything. I know. You could have just told me, I said. You could have been honest. I didn't think you'd understand. I laughed once, not loud. Just a breath of disbelief. I would have understood more than you think. But the lying? The sneaking? The money? I shook my head. You didn't just leave me. You tried to erase me. Her lawyer gently touched her arm. She quieted. Jake leaned over. We're not backing off restitution, he said. You'll be paying back every penny you took. Court will decide the amount and terms. Linda didn't argue. I understand, she whispered. I stood. We're done here. As I walked out, she called after me. Tom. I turned, just for a second. I wish I could undo it. I nodded once. So do I. And I left her sitting there. Because sometimes, there's no going back. Sometimes, all you can do is keep walking forward, no matter what's behind you. The day of the hearing was overcast. Fitting, really. I pulled into the courthouse lot wearing the same suit I'd worn to my dad's funeral. Felt appropriate. Not because Linda was dead to me, but because something sure was, maybe trust, maybe marriage itself. Hard to say. The courtroom wasn't like the ones on TV. No drama. No gasps. Just paperwork, quiet voices, and the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Linda sat across from me, looking small in her chair. She had a plain blue dress on and a folder clutched in her lap like it might protect her. Her lawyer whispered in her ear. She nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. Jake leaned toward me. Stay calm. Let the judge do the work. I didn't say a word. I'd done all my talking already. The judge came in and took her seat. Middle-aged woman, calm face, sharp eyes. She glanced over the files, then looked at both of us. Mr. and Mrs. Halpern, she began, you've been married for 15 years. You are petitioning for divorce on the grounds of financial misconduct, abandonment, and fraudulent activity. She turned to Jake. Mr. Wallace, please proceed. Jake stood, smooth and steady. Your Honor, My client has endured not just the emotional collapse of his marriage, but the theft of over $31,000 from their joint accounts. The funds were transferred by Mrs. Halpern to accounts connected to an individual currently under investigation for fraud across 3 states. While we acknowledge that Mrs. Halpern may have also been manipulated, she knowingly emptied shared savings, then left the marital home without notice. Then her lawyer stood. Your Honor, my client regrets her decisions deeply. She acknowledges wrongdoing and is cooperating with all legal inquiries. She requests leniency in the financial judgment and wishes only to move forward peacefully. The judge nodded once, then looked at Linda. Mrs. Halpern, do you wish to speak? She stood slowly. Her voice was quiet, but clear. I made mistakes. I trusted the wrong person. I hurt the right one. I can't change what I did, but I accept the consequences. The judge gave a long pause before speaking. Here is the ruling. The marriage is dissolved, effective immediately. All remaining assets are awarded to Mr. Halpern. Mrs. Halpern is ordered to pay restitution in the amount of $31,482.24. That includes direct transfers, penalties, and legal costs. You will have 90 days to begin a repayment plan, and failure to comply will result in civil enforcement. She looked between us. This court hopes you both find a path forward, but today we close this chapter. The gavel hit the desk. Just like that, it was done. I stood. So did Linda. Outside the courtroom, I didn't rush off. I waited by the doors, hands in my pockets, as people cleared out. Linda stepped out last. She looked up at me. Eyes tired. Face drawn. I'm sorry, Tom, she said, voice cracking. I thought I was chasing happiness. I nodded. You were chasing a story someone sold you. She just left out the ending. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did, I said. And you didn't stop when you had the chance. She looked away. I thought you didn't care anymore. I was still here, wasn't I? We stood there in silence. Finally, she whispered, Do you think I deserve what happened? I looked at her for a long time. I think you gave me away, I said. And someone else gave you nothing in return. She started to cry. I didn't comfort her. I just turned, walked out of the courthouse, and let the wind hit my face. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like surviving. But some days, that's more than enough. A week after the hearing, the check came in the mail. It wasn't much, the first of many small payments Linda now owed me by court order. $31,000 split across who knows how many years. It'll probably take a decade to pay it all back, and I don't expect to see most of it. But that envelope meant something else. It was the first time in a long while she did something she said she would. Still didn't mean I trusted her. A few days after that, I got a call from an old friend of ours, Donna, someone Linda used to work with. She called to check on me, but I could tell there was more to it. She's staying with her sister for now, Donna said quietly. Lost her job. Her name's kinda burned around here. I didn't ask for more. I just thought you should know, she said, then paused. She's not doing great. I said, I'm sorry to hear that, and left it at that. And truthfully, I was sorry. Not because I wanted her back. That ship had sunk and rusted out on the ocean floor. But because I don't think she ever understood what she was giving up until it was already gone. She texted me once after that. Just one line. I don't know who I am anymore. I stared at it for a long while. Thought about replying. I even typed out, You'll figure it out. Just stop running. But I erased it. Some lessons aren't yours to teach anymore. So I didn't respond. Instead, I focused on living small and living well. I started walking every morning again, something I'd stopped doing years ago. Got back into woodworking out in the garage. I fixed the back gate, finally put up that new light on the porch. Simple things. But they grounded me. I donated her clothes, the ones she left behind. Not out of spite, just because it was time. The bedroom looks emptier now, sure, but also cleaner, clearer, like a chapter that's done being written. Every now and then I'll see her name pop up on something. An old email, a label on a photo frame, a contact in my phone. And for a second, it stings. Not because I miss her, but because I remember the man I was when I believed we were still something solid. But that man's gone. And in his place is someone better, not colder, not bitter, just stronger, quieter, wiser. People ask me now if I'll ever marry again. Maybe, but I'm in no rush. Peace isn't something I'm willing to gamble anymore. And I've learned the hard way, the slow way, that the biggest betrayals don't always come from strangers. Sometimes they come from the person who promised you forever and meant it until they didn't. Linda thought I'd sit still, maybe beg, maybe break. But I didn't. I didn't scream. I didn't chase. I rebuilt. And one morning, months later, while sitting on the back porch with a mug of hot coffee and the sun just starting to peek over the trees, I realized something. I was happy. Not loud, not dancing in the rain happy, but quiet, unshakable, steady happy. The kind that doesn't need anyone's permission. And that, right there, was the part Linda never understood. She didn't just leave me. She gave me back to myself.